Good evening. My name is Thomas Reutman. I'm a hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waiters is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded and a sign-in sheet is on the table in the front of the room. Please be sure to sign in for our record so that if necessary, we can contact you in the future regarding the item you're here for. This public hearing is being held to consider 11 items. All 11 items are about tree removal and replacement applications. They are order number 202686 for 840 El Camino del Mar, order number 202687 for 1555 Union Street, order 202688 for 300 Arguello Boulevard, adjacent to 3899 California Street, order number 202689 for 544 and 578 2nd Street, order number 202690 for 633 Folsom Street, order number 202691 for 799 Castro Street and 3880 21st Street, order number 202692 for 129 and 131 Edge Hill Way, order number 202693 for 3719 22nd Street, order number 202694 for 1001 Potrero Avenue at Zuckerberg General Hospital, order number 202695 for 553 15th Avenue, and order number 202567 for 645 5th Street and 88 Bluxom. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing items, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determination on today's hearing items. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the Department will notify you of them. Therefore, if you'd like to be notified, please sign in and provide your contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for all 11 items. I will first ask the Department's Urban Forestry Unit to make a brief presentation. The Urban Forester will give me a brief summary of the application and will have up to 5 minutes to present the item. On cases where the Department denied the application, I'll have the applicant speak next, and then any members of the public can speak. Then I'll allow the Department to speak again to address any concerns. On cases where the Department has approved the application but received protests, I'll have the protesters speak next, and then the applicant. And then I will allow the Department to speak again to address any concerns. In some cases, there are mixed appeals, meaning the Department has approved some removals but denied others. For these cases with mixed appeals, I will ask the protesters speak after the Department and then the applicant. Comments should be addressed to me and not to the Department. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you can submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers. When you hear the first bell, it means the speaker has 30 seconds left to speak. A louder second bell will signal that the time is up. If you're speaking in general about all of the permits, I ask that you speak once and not to each permit application. After public comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. For order number 202686, may I have the Department make its presentation?
Good evening. My name is Brian Ong. I'm with San Francisco Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry. Make a small presentation beforehand. So the Public Works strategic plan is goal number 1, ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure and public rights of way. A little background about our street tree SF. We basically have a tree pruning schedule. Street Tree SF states that the City of San Francisco is now responsible, as of July 1st, 2017, responsible for all tree work and maintenance throughout the city. You can go to our website and take a look at where we are pruning. So many years of deferred maintenance has led to trees dying, declining, or becoming structurally unsafe, requiring many trees to be removed. This impacts residents across the city. Mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 proposes funding new street tree plantings at a total of $2.3 million. A total of $2 million will fund replacement street tree plantings. The mayor has stated that she is committed to ensuring that when we remove a tree, that we replace it. Additionally, the Board of Supervisors added $1 million in funding for new trees this year. Public Works receives other funds for tree planting, but these primary sources above will ensure that we can address planting the required replacement trees. So for our first order, number 202686, for 840 El Camino Del Mar, is to consider the removal of 2 street trees with replacement adjacent to 840 El Camino Del Mar. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So these are 2 ficus trees. The property is doing some renovation inside and repairing the driveway. It does not trigger any of our public works codes for trees, but since they are redoing the driveway, PG&E is going to be redoing the gas line. I'll go to the next slide. The red arrows mark up above is where the gas meter is, and the 2 lines over on the left-hand corner indicate where the line is running currently. So to repair this or to replace this line, PG&E will have to remove quite a lot of root mass of the tree, which the tree will not survive at that point. Here is kind of a diagram of what's going on. The existing gas meter runs right through one of the existing trees, and then they're going to be repairing it, and then the new gas line is going to be on the other side of the second tree, to the right-hand side where that van is. So 1 tree will be replaced. So yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to protest the removal of this tree? Yes, sir, come up. Please give us your name and testimony.
Hi, my name is Lance Carnes, and I noticed 2 very beautiful ficus trees are under consideration here. I often wonder when people do construction projects if they ever think about working around the trees. And I notice in this case, it's gas lines are being installed, which, due to global warming, are kind of frowned upon these days. So I will wonder if the owners would look again at some way of preserving the trees and getting their project done, maybe use non-gas electrical or non-gas energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here protesting the removal of these trees?
Good evening. My name is John Nolte, and again, these are 2 ficus trees, and I think PG&E can move the gas line to the other side of the driveway, so it won't be affecting the 2 trees that are planted there, and that would help save the 2 trees that are there. And I didn't hear any problems with that. There was no discussion by the BURF that the trees were in ill health or anything else, so it was only removal because of the, what was said was because of the gas lines being put in. So I would suggest that they decide to reevaluate where the gas line goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael Nolte here, and I notice we have 3 minutes. That wasn't mentioned before, so everybody else in the audience knows they have 3 minutes to talk. If anybody wants to do a filibuster. Anyway, when people plant trees, the whole idea of planting trees are for the well-being of the community, and the community needs to have something there for, in this case, FICA trees last for over close to 100 years, and they look like they're mature trees, and they've probably been there at least 20, and so they have a number of years to go. And just because some company that's probably going bankrupt wants to do more problems in our city, one of the things the city wants to do is possibly take over PG&E. Then we have 2 monopolies going on in the city and the trees, and then the city, possibly a municipal PG&E. So who's going to win on that one? And then there's the issue of, the trees actually do a lot of benefits for the community. Obviously, the gas only provides for the minor number of people within the surrounding block or so. And the trees will probably outlive the existence of the pipeline that's there. So I don't know which wins on that one, because here again, the trees, if they're going to last another 80 years, and probably in another 20 to 40 years, somebody's going to say we need to replace the pipeline again, and to go through this whole process again and again and again, because pipelines fail and everything else. So I think what's more important is preserving Mother Nature, and I don't see why trees have to always be the blunt of somebody second guessing what needs to go there. So there should be some alternatives looked at. I didn't hear anybody from PG&E here saying what they need to have done. So there's no, I would like to know if there's a representative of PG&E here to do a presentation, not just FERF. So that would be helpful for the people at this hearing to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here protesting the removal of this tree? Is the applicant present?
Hi there. My name is Aaron Gomez. I'm the architect with Bolin Swinski Jackson Architects. I'm the architect in charge of this project. Just one point of clarification. I believe the permit and the protest associated with it is for the removal and replacement of both of these trees. The 2 trees are planned to be replaced in kind. With just a different species of tree. These 2 ficus trees in particular, because this particular property sat vacant for over 10 years and had an abatement order placed on it. The sidewalk, the front yard, the trees themselves fell into disrepair. The extended permit under which the tree replacement is part of includes the replacement of the sidewalk, which has been damaged because of these ficus trees. Ficus trees, as you may know, within the city, there's been an order that was put forth to consider the replacement of any ficus tree because of their strong root structure, which damages public sidewalks and becomes a tripping hazard and potential, fall hazard related to foot traffic on the sidewalk. The trees are being replaced with an arbutus marina, which our landscape architect can speak to, but it's a tree that is prominent on this block and does well, is on the city's list of approved sidewalk trees as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Was any consideration given about the questions about the location of the line?
Yeah, so this particular property has a relatively narrow frontage. It is I think, a 40-foot, 45-foot street frontage, which requires 2 trees. That, when you consider the curb cut for the driveway, service from water, electrical, gas, and the required distances for clearances, in addition to the city's preferred tree well size, don't leave much room left over for utility access. So moving the gas line to the proposed location was, from what we could see, one of the best options for allowing for everything to coexist. Again, we are not looking to simply remove these trees. It is the removal and replacement in the same places of the trees, just reorganizing the utilities around those.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the applicant here to give testimony?
Hello, my name is Lauren McClure, and I'm part of the landscape architecture team on this project. And we chose the Arbutus marina tree to replace these trees because it is also an evergreen tree. It has a lot of presence on the street, so it's part of the character of the neighborhood. And we are aware of long-term life safety and maintenance issues with this particular ficus tree. So we will be replacing with 2 new healthy trees that will also offer ecosystem benefits to the community.
Thank you. Anyone else here with, from the applicants?
Hi, I'm Chris Rudolph with Red Horse Constructors. I'm representing the general contractor on this project. I can speak a little bit to the PG&E routing and our sidewalk replacement. So as both Aaron and Lauren mentioned, the applications for removal and replacement of both trees due to the utilities infringing upon their root structure. And our plan is to relocate utilities to no longer run through the tree well, so that in the future, when different residents want to make upgrades or repairs to utilities need to occur, they can be done in portions of the sidewalk that would not affect the root structure of these trees. It's not terribly clear in this photo, but as Aaron mentioned, the sidewalks are cracking and causing tripping hazards in this highly traveled area. Being so close to Land's End Park, there's a tremendous amount of foot traffic, and we're trying to do everything we can to replace a sidewalk in a safe means. And that's one of the larger driving issues to getting these replaced with a lot more sustainable tree that can keep this whole frontage safe and appropriate for many decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here representing the applicant? Okay, any further comment on this? Okay, we'll close this item and we'll move to order number 202687.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry. It's for order number 202-687, 1555 Union Street, to consider the removal of one significant tree at 1555 Union Street. The staff has denied the removal and the applicant has appealed. So there's one tree over here, it's Corymbia, and it's nestled right in between two very narrow planting area. And the tree has been topped in the past. The tree is quite small, in a very small planting strip, and there's little soil volume for the tree to grow, and there is root damage to the parking area and the concrete pad. So the applicant would like to remove the tree and possibly substitute the surrounding area with Adapave, which is a resin binder of natural or recycled aggregate with a typical grading of 6 to 10 millimeters. The open texture achieved provides a highly porous surface, allowing the tree roots access to both air and water penetration. The largest opening to extent possible should be preserved around the trunk. So heaving due to the tree roots, but there's no tripping hazards. Trying to consider making repairs and paving back with Adapave. Here are a few more photos of the tree. So to be consistent with how we deal with certain cases, other cases, the staff has denied the removal and the applicant has appealed.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Hi, my name is Michael Kim, and I was unaware of the Adapave, some of the comments made by Brian here. We would like to remove the tree and replace it with a different tree. This particular tree lays down a lot of sap, a lot of foliage, different times of the year, and where our business has the parking lot, a lot of the cars get sap and sometimes have a lot of complaints with wanting damages for damage to their vehicles. We were looking to replace the tree with a peppermint willow. This being a hospitality property, the peppermint willow has a fragrance for everybody and also deters rodents. So, thank you.
Thank you. Has the proposed replacement tree been discussed with Buff?
It was discussed with Sarah Stacy, and also one other person who put the sign on the tree, both stating that that would be a good replacement for if we were to replace it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony on this particular tree?
Josh Klipp. I would just like to say that I hope that the department does not consider tree litter as a factor in determining whether a tree is appropriate for removal. There are a lot of things that litter, mostly humans, and hopefully we won't be removed on that basis. But this is a living being that is constantly working to improve our environment. And I'd also note that this appears to be the only tree on this entire block. On this block. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Michael Nolte, I'm a native San Franciscan, and I wanted to point out that, you know, when something is given a significant tree status, there's a reason for that, and I think maybe the applicant needs to look up what significant tree status means. So I think that when a tree, again, is planted, it has a purpose. Maybe the applicant was not there when the tree was planted. I don't know that, but the thing is now the tree is here, and the tree needs to be nurtured like any other living thing. If it's causing problems, there may be ways to mitigate, and maybe there needs to be a discussion with the the department to, that deals with trees to discuss ways to mitigate, but not to remove. And obviously, the staff has denied, so the staff is doing what they believe is the best way to handle this permit. So I think, again, keep the tree, give advice to the property owner or applicant to how to better handle the tree issues. Tell people not to park next to it if they don't want their cars damaged. And remember that it's a living thing, and make sure you keep it alive, like, you know, it should be kept. I think there's fines for that too. Don't let it die on you. All right, bye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close this hearing and move to sorry, not the hearing, the order. We'll move to order number 202688.
Urban Forestry, Brian Ong. Order number 202688, 300 Arguello Boulevard. The removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 300 Arguello. Tree is adjacent to 3899 California Street. The staff has denied the removal and the applicant has appealed. So you can see this London plane tree. It's been pollarded in the past, but it's a healthy and sustainable tree. The conditions involving the tree location, offset driveway, and bus stop that have existed in the past, the owner wants to remove the tree because it is in front of the driveway, as you can see, and it does block a path to get into there. They can't safely enter and exit the garage because of the tree. So here's a few photos. On the left-hand side is 2019. On the right-hand side is 2017. You can see from like those big round knuckles, it's been pollarded correctly. Here's another photo of 2015, 2014. It's doing very well. 2011, 2008. Trees pretty much stayed the same and been pollarded on a regular basis. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, the staff has denied the removal of the tree, of the permit.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Good evening, Brian Connolly. I represent the family that owns the property. And the reason for our request for appeal is that we feel it be a public safety issue. Trying to drive back out of that into a bus stop, a very busy bus stop, and there's actually two bus lines that stop there. So it's always crowded, a lot of pedestrians. There's buses and traffic coming around the corner. There's left turns coming off of Arguello going onto that. So even without an obstacle in the way, it is an exciting prospect to try to do that. I do have two letters written by the people that use that garage, if I can submit that on that. And I don't know if I can introduce some additional, okay. Okay, so you can see on the top right-hand picture that the tree is actually fairly substantial, and it's a very lovely tree. It's just dead right in the middle of that driveway on that. And so the car on the right-hand side, in order to back out, missing the tree, has to go perpendicular right into the two lanes of traffic on California Street before it can begin its turn to re-enter into the lane. The car on the left-hand side does have to physically change its direction and turn, and adding one more complexity to trying to get out to traffic safely on that. And also, it is noted here that street tree without replacement, if you'll, right at the end of the corner of the same property, I see next to that mailbox, there's a place where a tree could be planted, and I would be delighted to plant a tree there as a replacement on that. And once again, the tree there is a lovely tree. I fully support trees in San Francisco on that. I've grown up in San Francisco, and it's a beautiful city because of the trees. It's just that it is certainly a safety hazard to the residents in my building, and I think it poses a danger to the people out on the street and out in the traffic. And even though it's been there for a long time, it still, I think, represents a risk. And just because something hasn't happened doesn't mean that something won't happen. And so that's why I'm trying to be ahead of the curve on that. Okay.
Thank you. Do you know if the tree or the driveway was there first, or the garage?
My dad built this property back in 1972, and so I don't recall whether, I've got to believe that the tree was planted, I don't know. The honest answer to the question is I don't know. I would have to believe that were the decision to be made today or made after the building was built, I would have to believe that the tree wouldn't be located there.
Thank you.
There are the two pictures in the middle that, looking at it from the way that the driver would see it, so you can see that it's a very pronounced obstacle coming out. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the applicant? Is there anyone here to protest the removal of this tree?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jim Milnes. I'm the community director for this building and others. And both tenants that use that garage have explained to me it's absolutely dangerous. And there's been several near misses as they back out into traffic. And I would say that traffic today is probably busier than it has been, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago. So backing into California, which is a busy artery, is increasingly dangerous. And I've got to represent the interests of my community. And we do like trees, and we would like to place one around the corner. And I can see that the application shows that there's a request to remove the tree without replacement, and we do want to have a replacement. Thank you.
Anyone else from the applicant side, or anyone else protesting the removal? Just a follow-up question. Is it a general protest, or? Because I just want to give everyone a turn to speak. There's a lot more orders to go through tonight. Just a follow-up question to the department. Given the owner's willingness to offer replacement planting, has that been considered by the department, given the location of the tree?
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry. Yeah, so a replacement is not an option because from the picture that he showed, the tree, due to planting restrictions, the tree needs to be at least 25 feet away from an approaching crosswalk. As you could see in that photo that he showed, the tree was too close to the crosswalk in between a bunch of streetlights. So due to planting restrictions, a tree couldn't be replaced. Yeah.
Okay, and there's no other area within the frontage that would work?
Not that I am aware of along the frontage of the property.
All right, thank you. Sure.
I do understand what Brian just said about not wanting to plant a tree within 25 feet of a crosswalk. I noticed that kitty corner on the other corner of California and Arguello, there was a tree planted years ago that's there, and that's right in that exact center, right next to the corner. So obviously, theories have changed as to where the tree should be, and I'm assuming that the reason why they will not allow a new tree in the location that I talked about is for safety issues, and that's kind of my point.
Okay, thank you.
This is the agenda when it originally came out, and has here for the same number, it has the address on Sunset Boulevard for 37th Street for this agenda item. So when it first came out, this is the agenda, and now you have a different address for the same order number. This is very confusing to the public when you start to change your agenda in between the date it comes out and the date it's heard. And you change the actual what's being heard today.
Thank you. We'll look into that.
Yeah.
Anyone else here to comment on this tree? Okay, we'll close this order and we'll move to order number 202689.
Urban Forestry, Brian Ong, order number 202689. This is for 544 and 578 Second Street. To consider the removal of 2 street trees without replacement adjacent to 544 Second Street. It's 1 tree, and 578 Second Street, 1 tree. This is for the Second Street streetscape, which is planning to plant more trees than they remove. The project is installing new crosswalks, traffic signal lights at intersections, and PG&E vaults. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So this is the first tree over at 544 Second Street, the Brisbane box. Here is a photo of the sidewalk and what they are planning on doing. They have installed a PG&E vault, and they need to run the conduit, which is basically that needs to go straight through the trunk of the tree. So any trenching would remove too much root mass of the tree, making it unstable. And so we have approved this tree. The second tree is 578 Second Street, another Brisbane box. They are installing a new crosswalk. It's basically Second Street and South Park. They're creating a new sidewalk or crosswalk at this corner. As you can see on the right-hand photo, there's a small circle right next to the left side of the tree. That's where the new street signal or traffic signal is going to be placed. And to do that, again, trenching will have to occur, and a lot of the root mass will disturb the structure of the tree. Here's another photo and another close-up photo of where the pole is going to be installed and where the crosswalk will be. So we have approved this application.
Thank you. Is there anyone here protesting the removal of this tree?
Josh Klipp, on its face, this proposed removal seems pretty straightforward, but when you start to drill into it, there are a lot of problems. Procedurally, there are 2 major issues. First, the removal notice period ended on February 22nd. Regulations require a 7-day notice on a removal hearing to any protesters. If you do the math, compliance would have been impossible to anyone who objected after February 17th. Second, the removal notice and the posted notice of hearing say 2 completely different things regarding replacement. The removal notice says, quote, "Streetscape plans to plant more trees than they remove," unquote, which is basically a vague and unenforceable promise. The hearing notice, however, says that the trees will be removed without replacement. Additionally, even though this looks like a straightforward removal for vault placement, there is 0 evidence that the applicant followed the city's vault placement schedule. And as for the crosswalk, it's unclear why this isn't installed at South Park, where there's plenty of space. SOMA already has the smallest canopy of any neighborhood in this city that has the smallest urban canopy of any major city in the United States. A brief look at this particular block indicates that there are a grand total of 9 trees on the entire western frontage of Second between Bryant and Brandon. From the intersection of Brandon and Second going north, there's 100 feet of clear frontage to the closest tree, 42 feet between the tree at 578 Brandon and its closest neighbor, 24 feet of clear space between the 578 tree and South Park, approximately 36 feet of clear space across South Park, and not a single tree between Tabor Place and Bryant. But despite all of this clear space, the applicant asserts it needs to remove 2 of the existing 9 trees to do its job. Speaking of its job, on the western front of Second, the applicant has strapped pedestrian barricades to tree in violation of city regulations. It's already trenched within protected root zones on 3 of the 9 trees. On the eastern frontage, it's strapped pedestrian barricades to 3 trees, 2 of which are strapped using steel wires that can slice into tree trunks. The applicant has clearly already performed extensive construction with zero regard to tree protection, has likely irrevocably damaged several of other trees and shortened their lifespans, and continues to this day to violate the rules regarding tree protection, and now seeks your permission to remove, without replacement, 2 healthy trees in an already tree-bearing neighborhood. On top of that, the applicant has had more than a year to explain why it needed to remove these, but failed to do so until this past December, and the city has obliged this gross mismanagement by offering the applicant this rushed hearing that fails to comply with the law. The applicant should be penalized, not rewarded, for its negligent actions toward our dwindling urban canopy, and should be required to not only find ways to work around these trees safely, but to pay for the damage it's already caused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Nolte. I just would like to say I move for continuance on this item because it's not been properly noticed, and there's obviously some things that need to be figured out by sanctioning the person that's dealing with harming the trees in our city. So I think continuance is in order to probably bring to light how to prepare some of this better. And because, I mean, you're making a decision, the hearing officer is going to make a decision, and it doesn't seem like it's ready for a hearing. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here for protesting the removal? Is the applicant present?
Hello, my name's Trent Tiger. I'm the project manager from DPW, representing the 2nd Street Streetscape project. As far as timing and notices, I can't speak towards that. But essentially what's going on with this and the reason why this was coming up recently, whereas the 2nd Street project has been going on for several years now, is that due to unforeseen utility conflicts that weren't originally found during the original planning of the project. For instance, at 544 2nd Street, we did some potholing. We attempted to essentially go any other direction for these utilities, but just found that it was just too congested at that area and found that the only way that we could install was to go through the tree, and that's why we're asking for the removal. The other tree at 578, essentially what was going on is a similar idea. Again, it was as we kind of came into the area and started potholing, we found that there was just a congested area with underground utilities. And at this area, it has a very high incidence of pedestrian accidents. And so the project itself was looking to construct a crosswalk. And because of that, we had to shift it down slightly, which coincided with the tree location. And because of that, we're trying to look at placement of new pole for the traffic signal. Due to DPW order, you're not allowed to have a tree within 25 feet of a traffic signal face, and thus we're asking for the tree to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here giving testimony on this tree removal? Okay, we'll close this. Yeah.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry. So as far as replacements go, because the 2 trees cannot be replaced in the same spot, we will be asking for an in lieu fee for each of those trees. And then all along 2nd Street from I think it's Market to Townsend, they will be replacing multiple trees. So as far as those 2 trees being replaced, they will not be replaced. They will have to pay the in lieu fee. But, as I said before, replacements will outnumber the removals. Just in general, they're going to be replacing or planting new trees along 2nd Street from Market all the way to Townsend.
Thank you.
Sorry, just want to reiterate what Brian was getting at. The project itself is installing over 70 trees along 2nd Street from Market to King. And we're only removing a little about 40, so we're essentially installing about double. the removal of these 2 trees would still put us at, roughly double the install on Second Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that clarification address your comments?
If the city has that kind of information readily available, it would be helpful if it would put it on its notices.
Thank you.
I want to clarify, again, south of Market, on Market Street alone, it's going to lose 700 trees from, on Market Street, and that's only a couple blocks away. And here you're talking about putting in 70 trees. So in lieu of, or putting it within the streetscape project, I mean, there's also going to be streetscape project on Market Street, and also probably on Mission too, eventually. So we have a lot of plans in the works, but, again, we're losing the trees, and then also you're not, the London pine are on Market Street, and you're taking out 2 London pine. I didn't hear the replacement species, and I also would like larger 48-inch box, 24-inch box replacement trees for all of the 70 trees being put in. Thank you, because they have to survive this urban area.
Thank you. Anyone else here to protest the removal of these trees? Okay, we'll close this order and we'll move to order number 202690.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry, order number 202690. This is for 633 Folsom Street. To consider the removal of 1 street tree without replacement adjacent to 633 Folsom Street. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So this is a project that SFMTA is doing. They are putting in a 2-way bike lane along Folsom Street, right in front of these ficus trees. So the only ficus tree that is going to be removed is the one at the corner. It does have poor structure and included bark. And does meet the director's tree removal ficus order. So because, and there's going to be a street light, a new street light going to be installed, and the light is going to be for bikes, and it's going to be facing the opposite direction that the cars are going for the bikes, for the 2-way bike lane. So because of that 25-foot rule that we have approved the tree to be removed. So yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone here protesting the removal of these trees? Okay. Is the applicant present?
Hello, my name is Alan Uy. I'm representing the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. I'm the project manager for the Folsom Howard Streetscape project. This is like what was said previously, this will be a 2-way bikeway on Folsom Street between 2nd and 11th Street. Because of the 2-way bikeway, we will need to remove this tree to accommodate for signal visibility for the westbound direction. We're just following DPW order 187246, which indicates their tree planting guidelines next to signalized intersections. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the applicant side here to give testimony? Okay, we'll close this order and move to order number 202691.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry, order number 2025691. This is for 799 Castro Street and 3880 21st Street. It's a corner property. So to consider the removal of 4 street trees with replacement of 3 adjacent to 699 Castro Street and 3880 21st Street. The owner applied to remove one street tree on Castro to install the garage driveway. Public Works found that the 3 trees on the 21st frontage are in poor condition, and this hearing will consider the removal of these 4 street trees. The staff has approved the removal, and the public has protested. So this is the subject property. On the left-hand side, this is where the driveway is going to be placed in between these 2 poles, pretty much where that truck is. The approved removal of the 1 Chinese elm on Castro frontage. The tree location is in direct conflict with the new driveway. A new tree on Castro is unlikely due to location of 2 utility poles and existing sewer line at downhill edge of the property. This is a closer look of the tree. It's got poor branch structure, poor scaffold branch structure, and the continual pruning to clear utility lines has created a constant maintenance issue. And then here is another close-up photo of the subject tree that needs to be removed for the driveway. And then these are a few other ones, the 3 approved removals on 21st Street, which aren't necessary for construction, but they are in poor condition. So the owner has agreed to remove and replace the 3 trees to help mitigate permanent loss of that 1 tree on Castro Street. So this is a Google Street View, and these are the trees now. It's the purple leaf plum. They're in fair condition with minor dieback in the canopy. They're a short-lived species and will probably decline in the next 5 years. Here's another photo of one of the purple leaf plums with minor dieback and has significant and increasing lean towards the road. And the planter box is also beginning to fail. Here is another photo of another Chinese elm that's going to be removed. So pretty much these red arrows, the first 3 trees, will be removed and replaced.
Sorry, Brian, is the plan to replace those in the same planter boxes?
They will not be in the same planter box. Basically, those 3 will be removed, and we'll have the spacing between each tree a little bit wider to accommodate for a bigger species. Since there's no overhead lines, we can plant something a lot bigger and with a lot wider canopy. So we can plant the 3 trees not in the same spot, but we'll space them. We'll have the owner space them a little bit further apart.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to protest the removal of these trees?
Hi, my name is Lance Carnes, and I guess we haven't heard from the owner applicant yet, but I was curious if they're agreeable to having all the trees around their property removed, the 3 that Buff recommended and the 1 they wanted to remove for their garage driveway project. Just want to point out that there's a little discrepancy here between, there was a citywide survey done in 2017 that showed that the 3 trees that are Buff has recommended removing only needed a prune at the time. Arbor Pro said need a routine prune, which usually indicates the tree is just fine. And I will look forward to the comments from the owner, if they're present, who will suddenly have a treeless frontage on their home. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else protesting the removal of these trees? Is the applicant present?
Good evening. My name is Ahmad Mohazeb, and I'm the project architect. And it's very simple. We have a project, well, in a very complicated way, we have a project that's taken us 11 years to get to this point. The garage location was an accommodation to the neighbors, and the tree has to be relocated or replaced somewhere else because of it. We made that application and also an application to add another tree. And the Bureau of Urban Forestry asked to remove the other three. Now, living sentient trees, they know better than I do. So we're amenable to putting those trees back in another species, and we're supposed to be doing so. We're not going to have, my client is not going to have a treeless facade. This particular tree on the corner, you've heard about the structure of the tree. We have years worth of emails from the tenants that have complained about neighbors complaining and asking for the trees to be pruned and cut back. So we're actually quite grateful that we're in the position to eliminate this tree and put something better in its place. And we'll certainly work with Bureau of Urban Forestry to put whatever tree species that they feel is fit for the spot. But it will not be a treeless facade. And this is a letter that I have from my client, and it has in it the emails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carnes, did he address your comment?
Yes, I guess he did address my comment. So you are not pleased with the idea of having a treeless frontage for a certain period of time, but you also claim it's not going to be a treeless frontage, so I don't understand that. These are fairly mature trees, have been around for a long time. And I do wish, I keep running into people who design projects for other people, and they just got to run their gas lines or their PG&E vault or some damn thing through a tree. And I wish you could take step back a little ways and say, these trees have been here for a long time. They're part of this neighborhood. Maybe you could find another way to run your project where these trees could remain in place. So, and as I pointed out, in 2017, the trees were considered in fine shape. They got a good rating from the citywide survey. And anyway, so I would actually be very happy if the trees stayed, maybe with some pruning. And I guess their project with the driveway requires a tree to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the applicant here to give testimony? Okay, we'll close this order and move to order number 202692.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry, order number 202692. This is for 129 and 131 Edge Hill Way. This is to consider the removal of 7 street trees and significant trees with replacement at 129 and 131 Edge Hill Way. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So it's basically 129 and 131 Edge Hill. They're 2 separate parcels and 2 separate building permits, and there's one owner and one developer. There's going to be a house going to be built, I believe 2 houses on the property, on both properties. And in the green circles is where the proposed trees, the trees are proposed to be removed. There's 6 on 131 Edge Hill and 1 on 129 Edge Hill. This is basically what the buildings will look like on the site plan. And then this is 129 Edge Hill Way. This is just the first tree. 131 Edge Hill Way, not the greatest photos, sorry. But you can see that there's a grove of a few trees. The footprint of the building will be where the trees are located. Here's the second tree on 131 Edge Hill, and just going down all the trees that are going to be removed. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have approved the permit to remove the trees.
Is there anyone here protesting the removal of these trees? Sorry, he was.
I'd like to project something too. Yeah, so John Maple, I'm a resident at 121. You might have to zoom in here. Which is adjacent to 127, which is currently under development, which is next to these two properties here. So when we moved in, there's a few dozen very large old trees. They're requesting a permit for removal of 7. What you'll see here in plans submitted to the building planning department was plans submitted in 2014. And you can see that a fair amount of those trees have already been removed. So what they're proposing is sort of turning an area that was substantially forest-like into something that's quite different. Furthermore, Edge Hill has, it's a smaller community of maybe 40 or so homes. There's been landslides in the past, including ones that caused multi-million dollars of damages. So erosion is a continuing problem on the mountain, and these old growth trees help prevent such incidents from happening.
All right, are you protesting all the removal of all 7 or a particular tree? Or what's your stance that you're presenting?
All 7.
You're protesting the removal of them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Bernd. I represent 181 Edge Hill, which is next to these two properties. The developer, a year and a half ago, that built the first building, clear-cut the entire lot to build that house. It stretched from the top of Edge Hill to the bottom side of Edge Hill. And now with the 2 new properties of the property that he purchased, he'll do the same thing again. That development of that entire land area is, you have to go through SAC review in order to build. It is a slide area. The soil is not conducive to building and does create these monstrosities of houses to clear cut. If they want to build, let the architect redesign the building in such way they don't have to clear cut the lot as they have done. And I know architects are intelligent enough to do that. With that said, when we wanted to build a 2-car garage, Urban Forestry denied us cutting 1 tree down, so we had to make a 1-car garage because our requirement in cities, every house has to have a garage. So we got a 1-car garage in construction now, no trees cut. And I had to plant trees on the frontage of Edge Hill in front of the house because the forestry department would fine me $2,000 for every tree I don't plant. So this guy, developer, comes and wants to clear cut another 2 lots. I think that is very poor management and very poorly designed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Yes, my name is Joel Lupkeman. I'm also an Edge Hill resident. I live at 245 Edge Hill Way. And just to provide a little additional background, and as this gentleman also provided, just to make it eminently clear, so these 2 lots are part of what was originally a 3-lot construction project. So construction is nearly complete on the first residence. When that first residence was built, they clear-cut the lot with no neighborhood notice. And that is just something that we don't understand how that was allowed to happen, that the entire lot of beautiful, majestic cypress trees were completely removed without any neighborhood notice. And I understand that's not what this is about today. But so We want to make it clear, or I just want to make it clear from my perspective that I understand that if construction is to take place, there may need to be some reasonable removal of trees. But the community has been given no information about the footprint of the building. When Mr. Ong just spoke, he indicated for the first time that we heard that they claimed that it's going to be within the footprint of the building. I think should be incumbent for them to provide us information on what the footprint of the building is. I think it's inconceivable that none of those 7 trees can be saved. The other thing I want to comment on is that there's this claim that they're going to be replaced with alternative replacements. If the tree species that are being used for the home that's almost complete is any indication of the tree species, completely inappropriate. We have these huge, majestic, 60, 80, 100-foot tall cypress that Edge Hill is known for. It's currently lots of these beautiful cypress. They are planting it with non-native species that are more like bushes than they are trees. And so we would also want to revisit and have information about what species are going to be used to replant, and that they should be consistent with the species that are being removed. And just one other word about this, the coast cypress that are being removed, those are an endangered species that only grow within a certain radius of the coast from basically the Golden Gate Bridge to Monterey. And so we really need more information before we can approve this tree removal. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
My name is Gordon Atkinson. I live at 200 Edge Hill Way, across the street from this project. And I've looked at the trees in person, but nobody's seen the plans, the development plans for the building. And so it's hard to evaluate their plans. I don't know if the department has any information on what their plans are.
As of now, I mean, these are the only plans that I have on me. Maybe the developer might have better plans.
So, which is this is the top of Edge Hill, and that's the bottom? Which way is north?
No, I believe
Do you have a north arrow in there?
I do not. I believe the bottom part is Edge Hill Way, and the top part.
They're both Edge Hill Way.
Yeah, but I believe the top part is actually up on the hill.
That would be south then. That would be page south, so I don't know. If that's page north, this would be the bottom here. I think this is the top here.
Is the developer present or the representative? Okay, I was gonna say if they could present, but if they're not here, then.
Yeah, okay, well, that's unfortunate, because I'd also like to know what they're planning on replacing the trees with. I believe the garage is probably going to be at the top of the hill, which would be at the bottom of the page, and they're probably going to be required to put public sidewalk or something where those existing trees are that are being removed at the top, and I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. But the ones at the bottom clearly would not be in the footprint of the house. They're required to have 25%. Now it's 30% of the lot as a required rear yard. And the other the 3 trees that they're proposing to remove at the bottom of the hill are clearly in the 30% of the lot. So I don't know why they need to remove them. They're large Monterey pines, and they're somewhat clustered. I would say that it would be reasonable for them to leave at least one there, but I would like to know what they intend on replacing them. I know it's a city, and they may not be the most appropriate species or in the most appropriate location, and I think it would be reasonable for them to replace some of them, but I think we would like to know what their plans are first. So I don't think they could get permission to cut these down until they get a building permit issued. Is that true?
I'll ask the department to speak to that, if you know what the process is for approvals for the building permit.
Yeah, just to clarify, they are Monterey cypress trees, but as far as getting the building permit, I believe the building permit has been approved. Nope. Okay, sorry. You know, they can't remove the trees without a permit from urban forestry. So as long as this is going on, the developer is not allowed to remove any of the trees.
Will urban forestry issue a permit before building permits have been issued?
So the process, how it goes is they do obtain a building permit, but they need all the required departments to sign off on this building permit. So through planning, I'm pretty sure since the first one has been, the first property has been approved, they have most likely applied for building permits for the other two properties. But, you know, as far as it getting issued to them, they have to go through this process of getting the trees removed first.
Okay, so I suggest that we'll look into what the status of those permits is, and then we can provide that information to you after, as far as whether or not, because it seems like there's some disagreement about how far along the process is for the approval of the projects.
Okay.
Applied, but they have not been approved. We actually confirmed that with Department of Building Inspection, so they're not approved.
Okay. Yeah, if you could bring them up, that'd be great.
I don't know if you want me to just, but clearly our photos indicate that the, not sure how this works, but that there are several that have been tagged that are on the perimeter of the property, not within the building footprint. So, so these ones here on this side are on the perimeter, and then as the previous speaker indicated, these are within the 30-foot rear yard, so it doesn't make sense why those are needed to be removed. So, and then we can just, and then here's a, and then, you know, there were, prior to starting construction on the other property, there were trees in this area here on these two lots that were removed. And they used that as staging. They put their construction debris and things in this area. But once again, without authorization, they just cut down trees in this area too. And so I think that that should be a consideration and discussion with the developer.
Follow-up question, Brian. Are these trees, on, they say they're street trees, are they within the public right-of-way, or?
Yeah, so there's a few trees that are towards the top of the hill that are street trees. So you only need a permit for trees that are in the public right-of-way, and trees are within 10 feet of the public right-of-way. So these 7 trees that need to be removed are either in the public right-of-way or within 10 feet of the public right-of-way. All the other trees, you know, unfortunately, that are inside the property do not need a permit to be removed. So.
And also, putting the permitting allowance aside, is there, was there any condition assessment of the trees? Would they be deemed for removal if there weren't a project?
No.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to comment on these trees that hasn't spoken yet?
My name is John Nolte, and as three generations of my family have lived on that hill for 50 years, and I was asked by other property owners to speak tonight on this removal, and they were told me about this 2 years ago, about these trees being removed, and they were very concerned because the community was upset about the removals on the other property, on the other lots that, prior to any notifications to the neighbors. And so the neighbors have been concerned about this. Also, since I've lived on that hill since I was a young person, believe it or not, and I know that, again, these are massive, big buildings that they want to put in, and these are where, on that hill, these are, I want to say, they're usually most of the buildings or the houses are from constructions, people that own construction companies, and they build these buildings for their clients and so forth. And so this is the problem that's been going on for over 50 years on that hill. And also what hasn't been discussed is also the street itself cannot allow on Edge Hill for a fire truck to go up there. So there are a lot of issues that are going on with this, with building on the empty lots on Edge Hill. And it causes problems, like they said, on both sides of the hill. There have been, or at least on the opposite side of the hill, there have been what do you call landslides. So yes, there was a lot of concerns about what's happening to when they construct this. And when behind my family's house, when it was built, when somebody else built behind it, they destroyed our basement with pouring tons and tons of concrete to support the house that they were building. So it seeps into the water. The water seeps into the into the groundwater and floods the buildings, the properties below. So they don't even care about what they do to other property owners when they build these buildings. So I have firsthand knowledge about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to support these trees? Anyone from the applicant side here? Okay. We still have a few cases to go through, so
I
it's just a
understand,
general
but,
complaint, please.
My name is Michael Nolte, and as my brother was saying, that the reality is that this is called Edge Hill, and it's a hill. It is not a house hill. It's not for houses, and when you keep on putting houses on top of a hill, it's going to cause erosion and other problems, and this is where the problems exist. I used to have a tree fort on that hill. It's now probably gone because people don't believe that kids can be there. Actually, my parents had two houses on the hill, and we could go from backyard to backyard when we were kids. But now, when you keep on putting property owner rights and everything, that doesn't exist anymore because there's too many private property lines have been. That's not really a forest anymore. Now it's just a hill full of property owners and their rights with their huge houses that have been put up in the last 30 or 40 years. So it used to be kind of a simple hill. Now it's basically, it's turned into a monopoly hill. And it's no longer really a place that is scenic to go up because it's now just a bunch of houses. It's a shame because, as some of the other people here have mentioned, getting rid of cypress trees that, again, are significant trees, and I keep on wanting to use that word, it's a significant tree. That means it has more value than other trees, and it's going to, they need not to be, it's going to be hard to replace a significant tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close this order and move to order number 202693.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry, order number 202693 for 3719 22nd Street. This is to consider the removal of one street tree by the property owner without replacement adjacent to 3719 22nd Street. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So this is Callistemon citrinus was approved for removal due to garage construction. Buff has denied the removal of the other tree to the right, and the owner will pay an in lieu fee for the non-replacement of this one tree for the garage. As you can see, the tree, it does have some poor structure, closer look, and so, you know, to be consistent with other cases, we have approved the removal of the tree.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to protest the removal of this tree?
Make it a clarification, is Buff is approved or denied this permit?
Sorry, so Buff has approved the one tree for removal and has denied the other tree.
I see, okay. Yeah, so I believe it's a lemon bottle brush, is that correct?
Yes.
And the DBH is about 12, so it's a fairly small tree? Okay. So I'm just, you know, and it got a good clearance from the Arbor Pro citywide survey. I don't understand why it has to be removed. It can't be a hazard to anybody. If it has poor structure, you know, sometimes people walk around with poor structure in their bodies, and they seem to do just fine. So I would like you to let the tree remain. It's probably just a fine tree. So let's see, what else did I write down here? Anyway, okay. Well, that's all I have to say. I think poor structure, I don't think, is an overriding concern for a tree necessarily. So. And it did get a good clearance from the citywide survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here protesting the removal of the tree?
Michael Nolte, you know, just the tree needs a little help. If it's got poor anything, feed it and prune it and keep it healthy. Removing it means that it's gone and it won't come back. So, you know, I think it's so easy for somebody to make a decision and remove something when that's kind of like it's gone, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But it's been there for a while, and it's done some good for the community, and now somebody just says, well, let's get rid of it. I think that that's a bad way to resolve problems. You know, one of the purposes of this hearing is to mitigate, and I didn't hear any mitigations in regards to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for this particular tree? Okay, is the applicant present?
Good evening, Tita Bell. I am a homeowner at 3719 22nd. I wanted to just first mention in response to the two individuals who protested, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. We're not just requesting to remove the tree because it's a nuisance. We're trying to build a garage and a driveway leading to the garage, and the only way to do so is to remove one of the trees. My husband and I bought this house in 2005, so, you know, we have dreamt of having a garage ever since we bought the house. It is the only house on this block that doesn't have a garage. We waited a good long time until we felt ready, until we had the money to make this investment. And we have absolutely nothing against trees. In fact, in all the years that the trees have been there before the city took over the maintenance, we lovingly cared for the tree. We hired an arborist and pruned it during the holidays. We decorated it for Halloween, for Christmas. And, you know, one of the first things we did when we bought the house, in the front of the house, there used to be just concrete and like a metal fence. We blew up the concrete, we put in a garden. You can't really see it in these photos, but we put in all these plants, you know, shrubs, a Japanese maple, which we have dug up in order to save and put back in the home when we get back after the remodel. So we have absolutely nothing against trees. We love trees, and we support the idea of maintaining the canopy in the city. Buff has determined that the tree may be removed. We actually proposed to replace it, and we submitted plans for a replacement tree well. Unfortunately, it was deemed to be too close to our neighbor at 3715's utility lines, and therefore it cannot, the tree well cannot be placed there. And so we are happily agreeing to pay the in lieu fee, and we'd be happy to plant 2 trees if, you know, that's preferable. And so I would like to just be very clear that this is not a decision to remove a tree because we don't want it there. It is a necessity in order for us to realize a dream as homeowners. We have been living in the city with little kids, raising them, and having a garage is a convenience that is critical to get our cars off the street. We've had to street park our cars for 15 years. They've been broken into multiple times, at least 10, and we'd like to at least save 1 car from that type of vandalism. I have with me 2 letters of support from my neighbors. 4 neighbors, east and west of my property, have submitted emails, I believe, but here are 2 of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi there, my name is Johnny Moss. I'm the architect for Tita and Brian on this project. And I just want to speak briefly about the technical challenges and just the technical aspects of the project. I don't think we need to go on and on, but essentially it is a driveway addition where there previously was not a driveway. It's a 10-foot wide driveway that needs to be placed where it is because of the constraints of the lot. It's a 25-foot wide lot, typical to many San Francisco properties. And the Bells, unfortunately, had 2 trees there whereas their neighbors always had 1 tree per lot. And I think that Tita and Brian proposed to replace the tree, as they mentioned. I think that's a very admirable approach and something we would recommend in all our cases. And in this particular instance, the technical constraints just won't allow the addition of a new replacement tree due to underground utilities, which is somewhat unique to this particular street. All the electrical lines are actually undergrounded, so each property receives its electrical service via an electrical line running perpendicular to the street directly to each house. So that's kind of a common thread as you go up and down this street. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here for testimony on this particular tree? Is it specific to the comments that were already made? We don't have a lot of time left, and I'd like to give the other applicants time, and you've spoken quite a few times, so if it's nothing particular to this lot, if you could save it for the end, that'd be preferred.
Well, actually, I'd just like to say that, you know, we showed up, we didn't know about the construction. It says here, removal for construction, doesn't say what. There's no permit applied for to remove the tree. So I guess, you know, for one thing, you know, as someone who likes to watch the progress of trees being removed or retained, more information is better than no information, which it seems like we have here. So, Yeah, I would just like the Bureau of Urban Forestry perhaps to get on the ball, provide information that we would need to either protest or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close this order and move to order number 202694.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry, order number 202694 for 1001 Potrero Avenue. This is to consider the removal of 11 trees with replacement of 2 trees adjacent to 1001 Potrero Avenue. This is the Zuckerberg SF General Hospital and Trauma Center. Due to construction of a new research and academic building that will be built near the corner of Vermont Street and 23rd Street. On the Vermont Street frontage, the staff has approved the removal of 7 street trees and 2 significant trees, and the public has protested. These trees will not be replantable due to the construction of a new building and access driveways. The trees will be in the footprint of the new building. On 23rd Street frontage, the staff has denied the removal of 2 significant trees with replacement on private property behind the fence, and the applicant has appealed. New trees and landscaping will be planted within the project site. They need to remove the 2 trees on 23rd Street in order to get access into the lot for staging equipment. So here are a few trees on Vermont Street. There's 9 trees applied for removal, or 11 and approved at the staff level. There's 7 street trees, 2 significant along Vermont. Here are a few photos of the trees. And then these are the 2 significant trees. One of the trees has actually fallen on the right-hand side and is pretty dead. And then the other 2 photos of more pictures of the 2 significant trees. These are the 2 trees on 23rd Street frontage that the staff has denied. As you can see, this is their access route to access the construction site for all the building materials. And I guess it's the only way that the trucks can go in order to access the site. Here's another photo of the 2 trees that we have denied on the 23rd Street frontage. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar projects, we have approved the 9 trees that are in the footprint of the building and denied the other 2 significant trees along 23rd Street.
Sorry, one of the ones that you were showing, the one that had toppled there, was that one of the ones that was denied?
No, that was one of the ones that has been approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, can you just show me the 2 that were denied?
The 2 that were denied are here on 23rd Street.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll hear from whoever's here to protest the removal of these trees first.
Josh Klipp, just a quick review of the timeline here. In 2016, the EIR for this project was completed and documents submitted to the Planning Department for approval. In 2019, email references minutes from a tree removal meeting in November, but those minutes weren't provided in response to a records request, so I don't know what happened there. On January 10, 2020, the applicant submitted a tree removal application, and that same day, Public Works issued a partial denial decision. On January 13, the applicant submitted a revised removal application, which included visuals on why an additional tree needed to be removed from the grove there on Vermont, a tree apparently not included in the previous application, and there's no evidence that a new or revised decision was ever issued. On January 14th, the department posted a removal notice that doesn't state how many trees are going to be proposed for removal, perhaps because until at least January 30th, the applicant was still haggling via email over what trees would be removed or not. The removal notice period ended on February 13th, and that's when the notifications of this hearing went out. The timeline is full of holes, but remarkably expedited, and it's hard to look at this and say this makes total sense. But I'm not here to protest the merits of the project. The application to remove the entire grove of trees along Vermont Street does not align with the EIR or with documentation submitted to the Planning Department in 2016. The EIR said that there may be 28 trees impacted by the project, many of which are in the parking lot where the new building is to be built. Additionally, documentation submitted to the Planning Department in 2016 specifically calls out the, quote, existing grove along Vermont Street, and noted in at least 2 instances that the new building's footprint did not overlap with this existing grove. Compare this now to applicant's January 13, 2020 revised removal application and the attached visual aid. Now there are 37 trees that ostensibly need to be removed. The primary difference is that the applicant's building footprint seems to have drifted eastward over the last 3 years. 9 of the 11 trees at issue here were approved for removal because they are supposedly within the building's footprint. These trees are part of what the applicant referred to as an existing grove and indicated would be preserved. Cumulative, these trees add up to an estimated and remarkable 23 feet worth of trunk diameter. Given the size of this loss and the conflicts between the applicant's previous and current assertions, it seems worthy of the city's time to go back and review the record documentation. The applicant additionally seeks to remove 2 trees along 23rd Street to create a 40-foot construction access point, which the department denied because it correctly notes that a truck's turning radius is not a reason to remove a tree. Nevertheless, while the applicant has found a way to preserve its historic frontage brick fence, it has not found the imagination to preserve 2 healthy established trees and seeks their permanent removal for temporary construction. For the above stated reasons, I respectfully object to this proposed removal.
Thank you. Anyone else on the protest for the 9 for removal?
Hi, my name is Michael Nolte, and it's really hard for the community to sometimes understand all the dynamics of what goes on because we have to come to these hearings and do a lot of research and then figure out all that FERC has to say is something's wrong with the tree, or there's a reason why it needs to be removed, or there's been an application provided. And usually there's no documents, there's no, I've gone to hearings where basically there's a public file to look at. There's no public file here. And so how does the community actually know what to say or what to do? Where's the public file? It's not here. And I'm going to make this clear. There should be an open process here for the community to understand what's going on. Where's the public file? I think each one of these documents, each one of these orders should have a public file to review so that we can adequately give public comment and make informed decisions when we do a communication with you. I mean, we've watched several times now on some of these orders that you had to go back and forth. And again, it's clear that the trees are the ones that get the worst of it all because they don't have a voice. And so it has to have people that want to advocate on behalf of the trees or advocate on behalf of common sense to say, 1, open process, 2, public information, and 3, that the processes that are already in place have to be followed. So I just heard somebody mention a handful of documentation that's been provided or that has been gone through, and there seems to be a lot of errors that have been made. And this is not the first time a poor tree gets erred all over. And again, somebody has to speak up on behalf of common sense. And again, as you're the hearing officer, mitigate if this has been done correctly. You can always say, go back and start over. I don't know why that's never not an option. Go back and start over this process and provide the community with the right amount of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here on the protest of this tree removal? Okay, now I'll let the applicant get an opportunity to present testimony.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Tenpass. I represent the project, and I'm also a San Francisco resident. Just going to pull up the presentation that we have for the project. All right. So what we're doing is we're building a seismically acceptable building for the UCSF staff on the DPH campus. We will be removing trees on Vermont Street to support the loading dock that for the medical research building and for the new sidewalk, which we did not intend to use, however, install. However, it is required for the emergency egress from the project. On the north side, there is a roadway that supports Building 5 for patient access for ADA and special patients to be able to access Building 5, the hospital. The south side, the 2 trees on Vermont, we really did not want to remove those trees. That was not our intention, and we looked at multiple ways to avoid removing those 2 trees, which we are replacing with similar species. Oops. On the west side, there is a patient drop-off, and we looked at using this drive to be able to access the south side of the project so that when we are in the middle of building, we are able to bring loads into the project. However, there is a historic gatehouse that is required to be protected per the EIR that was referenced earlier. And also on that private drive, there's a lot of congestion and heavy traffic for the hospital campus for people to be able to access. We considered going to Vermont Street to be able to have access into this space. However, there is a switchgear on the southeast corner that blocks access into the project site, and there is strong DPH, Department of Public Health, concern that construction deliveries from Potrero and Vermont could back up the ED ambulance drop-off. So safety and patient welfare is our top priority for this project. And unfortunately, it's the 2 trees on 23rd Street along with a historic fence, which we will temporarily remove the historic fence and replace. And then the 2 trees we will also be removing and replacing. The campus has a lot of traffic activity, and our top most concern is for patient welfare and also for anybody on this property. There's 2 bus stops also on 23rd Street, which affects also the campus drive, which we again considered. And with that, we did have arborists go through, and we have this information to submit. It was found that 7 of the trees on Vermont Street were in poor condition per the arborist report. The 2 on 23rd Street were in moderate health. And to comment on the remarks made about how many trees were there, we've been working with Buff. There was concern that the amount of trees in the public right of, no, so am I done?
You can, if you're.
Okay, to respond to the comment, the right-of-way was in question on Vermont Street. So the number of significant trees versus street trees and also the distance from the street curb was in question. Buff brought it to our attention and we oblige. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony from the applicant's side?
Hello, my name is Pierre Andrada. I am a senior project manager for Department of Public Health and Capital Projects for Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital. The hospital and Department of Public Health fully endorse the new roadway, site improvement, and research building project This builds upon the great relationship that UCSF and Zuckerberg already have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the applicant side here for testimony? Okay, we'll close this order and move to order number 202695.
Brian Ong, Urban Forestry. This is for order number 202695, 553 15th Avenue. This is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 553 15th Avenue. The staff has denied the removal and the applicant has appealed. So this is one Arbutus Marina that's in kind of like in the driveway, and the tree is sustainable and healthy. It's not a hazard, and I believe there's utilities that need to be installed that go directly through the tree. Here's a few other photos of the surrounding trunk of the tree. So to be consistent with how we deal with other applications, we have denied the tree removal.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Hi, my name is Melissa Lee, and my husband Jeff and I own this property. We bought it several years ago. When I bought the property, Mr. Louie, my neighbor, if you look at that picture to the right, he's been there for many decades. One of the first things he came out and said to me was, whatever you can do, can you please get rid of this nuisance tree? And at the time, we actually loved the tree and we thought everything was fine. And so we didn't really consider it for a while. And then we started actually looking into the tree. And would it be possible for you, Brian, can you go to your next picture? Thank you. What's hard to see in this just because the sun, but if you look to the picture on the right, that's actually a 2-inch raise of the sidewalk there. If you look at the trunk of the tree on the picture on the right, it's actually starting to bulb over. I don't know what the correct adjective for this is, but it's bulbing over onto the sidewalk and cracking it. On the north side to that, there's several cracks along that, but what you can't see in the corner is that's where the gas line is, and to the left of the tree is actually where the water meter is. And the roots have been reviewed by Tom O'Connor of O'Connor Plumbing, Kevin Kinahan of Kinahan Construction, my general contractor, Bill Egan, my architect, Christian Douglas, my landscape architect, Gustavo Esperanza of Victoria Gardens, who is actually doing all of the landscaping work in my backyard and installing the 8 trees that I'm adding to my property in the back, which is 26 by 46 of the mini forest we're trying to rebuild. We've all looked at this, and everyone is, and my electrician, Bill Bennett, we've all looked at this, we've measured it, and what you can't really tell from the photo, on the left a little bit, is that it actually pyramids. And so the cement actually comes to a pyramid and comes up. So it's actually a little bit of an uphill hike on that one section. And so Gustavo, who is my landscape person, doesn't even want to touch the cement there because he's so scared of the gas line. Because we know the roots are there, but he's scared that if he touches the gas line or any roots, it's going to pull up the gas line and be a significant problem. The electrical wires go through the top of the tree, but as we were inspecting the tree this morning to make sure we were prepared for this event, we realized that the tree, 80% of it, and with all due respect, I don't think my inspector, when she came out, realized that 80% of the interior of the tree is actually infected with thrisps. And so the tree actually is not healthy. It's not maintained properly, which we're sad to find out. But what we'd like to do, just if I can quickly say in 10 seconds, we actually want to move the tree down. If you look at the picture on the right, all we're asking is, and we're willing to pay every expense of this, is to buy the most mature tree possible and actually move and have this tree removed and move the tree farther down the hill. And we want another tree planted. We want a tree. It's not that we don't want a tree. We desperately want to keep a tree in the front yard of this house, but it's too close to the gas. It's too close to the water. If we move it down, it won't impact Mr. Louie's water line. It shouldn't impact his sewer lines either. And there's plenty of room to plant another mature tree. If urban forest would allow us to put the most mature tree possible, we would cover all those expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here protesting the removal of this tree?
Good evening, my name is Tara Khan Architecture. I support the staff decision to deny the tree removal of this tree. The removal is not aligned with the city's goals and values of sustainability and countering climate change in the future. I represent 547 15th Avenue, 2 houses away, which my mother has resided in for more than 60 years and is my family home. And I represent many residents on the block who protest and oppose this tree removal and have personally expressed to me their desire for this tree to remain, but are not aware of today's hearing, nor was I made aware of this until a half hour before the hearing began. This is a mature tree. It's a treasure for the neighborhood. It's an asset to the block and the neighborhood at large. It would take decades for a tree to reach this level of maturity. Even as the applicant has suggested, to put in a mature tree, it just wouldn't be the same. And it would likely be incompatible with the trees on this block. This tree provides many benefits, including migrating bird habitat and nesting, and will likely outlive the applicants who have not yet moved into this residence. An identical tree and size at a remodel in 2016 at 535, which is about 5 or 6 houses down the street, was kept and did not pose issues for upgrading the systems, the gas lines, and other utilities. Many of the owners on this block have replaced their sewer laterals with tree roots growing in, and relocating the gas lines is certainly possible to relocate them to the other side. Importantly, this tree serves an important architectural feature on the block. The rhythm of trees on this block makes this one of the most visually pleasant blocks in the Richmond, largely due to the mature trees. It's healthy and it's established. So I urge staff to please deny the appeal, preserve this tree, and recognize its valuable, strong contribution to the neighborhood and to the neighborhood character. And also, I request that time be allowed for the community to express their concerns, as they were not aware of this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just get any other protests on the record first.
Josh Klipp. After the passage of Prop B in 2017, the sidewalks and tree roots lifting up sidewalks are not the property owner's responsibility anymore. Those are the city's responsibility and the city's problem. I'd also like to point out that there have been, I lost track at this point, but I think 7 or 8 trees just tonight that we've been looking at approved for removal because of infrastructure conflicts. Almost all of those conflicts came into play long after this tree was established and healthy. At our current rate, we should be an even more tree-barren city by the time climate change is irreversible, but at least we'll have plenty of electricity and gas. Thanks.
Yes, Michael Nolte here. I lived in the inner Richmond for 8 years, and the Richmond is one of the more beautiful neighborhoods of San Francisco, and and we have plenty of trees along the sidewalks. And as what's been mentioned is a couple things from the already people that spoke, is these are mainly single room people houses or duplexes that are in the Richmond, and but the thing is that we need to have our trees, and it's important that the trees stay. And I think the applicant is in some weird way doing the job of the city. If there's a problem with the sidewalk, then talk to the city to do any construction that needs to be done on the sidewalk. And if there's problems with the tree, talk to the tree, but obviously the staff has already denied the removal. So because of that, I'm not sure what the issue is here, except that the applicant wants to continue a process of removing a tree for whatever reason, and it's not apparent to what that reason is, because maybe there's other things going on. It's great that she came up and mentioned a bunch of names of who she's consulted with, but it would have been great if there had been some reports from those consultants submitted to the hearing officer, and not just and try to impress the hearing officer with a bunch of names of who she's had time to communicate with. I'm not saying that's not good or bad. It's just that if I had the time to get estimates and reports and have professionals looking at various parts of my property, I would get some sort of estimates and reports and documents to document. And if I knew I was going to come to a hearing, those things would be part of the packet that would be distributed into the record. I don't know if that's been done, but if it hasn't, then again, none of it's up here for the public to look at. There's no packet here for the community to look at, to review. And I'm saying over here where that's been done at other meetings that I've been at. So we all have no knowledge except for what we can see and find on the internet as far as the community. And as somebody that's still lives in San Francisco, I do not want to see the inner Richmond with no trees. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was a little dismayed to hear one of the people who spoke on behalf of keeping the tree, that they didn't know about this hearing until a very short period of time before the hearing was supposed to start.
Can you state your name for our...
Oh, yeah, sure, Lance Carnes.
Thank you.
The trees are supposed to be noticed for removal, and I presume that was done, from my records, it looks like it was done at least 4 or 5 months ago. Is that correct? When was the post for removal? Anyway, he'll find that. Yeah?
Brian Allen, Urban Forestry. The tree wasn't posted for removal because it was denied, so a denial letter was sent to the applicant. And so we do only, for denials, the tree's only posted when there's a hearing, which is 10 days before the hearing.
I'm not following that at all.
Sorry, so only the applicant got a denial letter when they first, so there's nothing to post. So she appealed our decision, and so it went to a hearing. So then we only post the tree 10 days before the hearing, and it also goes online.
So it was posted?
Posted only for the hearing, for this hearing, 10 days before today.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It wasn't on your website?
Okay. All our, well, the postings, like all the hearing stuff goes on our website, the DPW website.
I check the website regularly, and it wasn't on there. I just checked it this morning.
On the DPW homepage.
Yep. Well,
It's not on our
Oh,
street tree website.
okay, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that, you know, a lot of times as well, trees are posted with a little orange notice that says, you know, notice of removal. And those things are often torn down. Maybe it's up for a day or two, and then it's torn down. And fortunately, now they have a website where you can look up whether trees have been noticed for removal. And I guess, quite a few times tonight, I think Buff has kind of dropped the ball, and I think people aren't aware of what's going on with these things. Someone pointed out there's no file here. It's kind of, you're kind of playing with a loosey-goosey game here. Anyway, so I'm happy to hear that Buff denied the removal, and I'm sorry the neighbors didn't know about it and could come in and protest. So try to do better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close order number, we'll move on. Sorry. Oh, yeah. If you can address any of the comments made, that would be
Just
appreciated.
very quickly, I actually only found out a few days ago, the house is obviously under construction, and we don't have a mailbox, and accidentally the notice went there. And luckily, your department was kind enough to, at the last minute, email me and let me know about this. I arranged very quick childcare and came down here. I've never requested a tree to be removed. I don't know what's supposed to happen. Your department, Urban Forestry, has been very helpful, just kind of explain shortly the process, but I don't know exactly what should be done or how to do this. I've never wanted to move a tree and replace it. But the reason why this is different than the other properties on the street is, and if you actually look to the very first tree we discussed tonight, and you saw the gas line that was being put in, my gas line is the same way. And a gas line, PG&E does not allow it to go under the driveway. So I actually can't move it to the other side, which we talked about and tried to do. I would move it down, I would rearrange my stairs. Planning wouldn't let me redo the stairs. We tried to work out every possible scenario, which is why I came kind of owning the house almost for 3 years now and not living in it yet. We tried every scenario to try to work through this. And it wasn't until we really realized that, wow, this tree has this significant disease going on with this infestation. And we looked at the fact that it could be, if possibly, moved down to a spot that would affect no driveway, nobody's stairs, and we could plant a really mature tree if the city would allow us. We would incur that expense. So this was the only solution we came up with, and that's what I was presenting today. It wasn't that we were trying to hide anything. We just didn't know the process, and we ourselves, again, only just found out. So if people in the public were looking for documents, I don't have a degree in urban forestry or planning. I don't know what I'm supposed to provide. I'm just a mom, so excuse me for that.
Thank you. Do you have any information? You mentioned that the tree was diseased with thrip. Is there any
Well, to be honest,
documentation?
I would actually ask, could we have a review again by urban planning to actually come out, or sorry, I forget what your department's called, but forestry, to come out and actually look, because if you did, if we had an arborist, we could come out and show. I just found this out today. We couldn't identify what it exactly was, and I finally just found out what it was. I'm not familiar with thrips. I had to look this up myself, but it's infecting more than 80%. It's only that outer canopy that looks healthy, but if you look in the inside, it has dead branches. All the leaves inside are dead. They're infected, and I would be completely open to their opinion if they want to come look at it again, so we could make a proper assessment and the city could review that, if that's possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to remind on record that the city recently passed a rule, which I realize this project does not fall under yet, but banning natural gas in new construction, and that we are moving away from natural gas, and I would like that to be factored into consideration of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna close this order and move to order number 202567.
Okay, order number 202567. This is for 645 5th Street, or also known as 88 Bluxom Street. This is to consider the removal of 35 street trees with replacement adjacent to 645 5th Street, which is the SF Tennis Club, or also will be known as 88 Bluxom Street. On the 5th Street frontage, the staff has approved the removal of 3 ficus trees. On the Brandon frontage, the staff has denied the removal of 10 magnolia trees and 1 Brisbane box tree at 525 Brandon, and the staff has approved the removal of 8 loquat trees. On the Bluxom frontage, the staff has approved the removal of 11 podocarpus, 3 hawthorns, and 1 platanus tree at 38 Bluxom. Application number 785001. So this is on the Brandon frontage. These is just like kind of an overview of all the trees, pretty much all the way from the right, all the way down. I believe, like I said before, there are 10 magnolia trees that we denied, and 1 Brisbane box, and then approved 8 loquat trees. This is on the Bluxom side. These are a few of the podocarpus trees, and one of the platanus trees kind of behind the truck. You can't really see. Sorry about that. But these are the other podocarpus trees. Basically, they're demolishing this building, and we are approving the podocarpus because they are right up against the building. So in order to do any kind of construction, they're going to have to trench, and it's going to remove a lot of the root mass, making the tree unstable. This is another just overview of all the other podocarpus along the Bluxom Street frontage. As you can see, they're right up against the building. Some are only about less than half a foot away. And these are the 3 ficus trees along 5th Street. They all have poor structure, previous branch failures. The one on the right should really be removed right away. And, you know, they do fall under the director's tree order for ficus removal. And then I'm just going to go through a few pictures of all the loquat trees that were approved to be removed. They are actually putting in a few vaults in here to put all the overhead lines underground. The sidewalk's going to be widened, and the underground lines are going to go into the street. So they do need to put a few vaults, and some of the trees are in the way. But, you know, the loquat trees that were approved are in decline. As you can see, these are all the individual loquat trees. This one's dead on the right-hand side. As you can see, they're all declining. A lot of dieback, just a few poor structure overall. And yeah, so to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have, you know, partially approved and denied the trees for this application.
Thank you. We'll start with the protests for the removal.
Overhead, please. Good evening. My name is John Nolte. This picture is the Bluxom side of the property. This picture again is of the Bluxom side of the property. Of these 2 pictures, we have 17 trees and 3 empty tree plots which have not been discussed on that side of the property. This picture is of the 5th Street side of the property. This picture is of the Bryan Street side of the property. And this is the rest of the Bryan Street side of the property. The site has 15 trees and then 7 empty tree plots on this side of the property. So there's a total of, as noticed, 35 trees that are talked about, but then there are 10 empty tree plots around the property that are empty, for a total of 43 tree plots around the property of the San Francisco Tennis Club. So my concern here is that on a couple of things, we're talking about widening sidewalks, putting in parks, a number of things that haven't been really discussed, and at least by Burf. And so the issue is here of you have the parcels that are going to be divided into 3 different buildings, and we're talking about office buildings. And when I was listening to the Planning Commission hearing, this building will take up 2 years of Prop M office building reserves. And so for 2 years after this was passed in 2019, Prop M, there will be no more office buildings being able to be built in San Francisco for 2 years in front of the Planning Commission per Prop M. So I'm very concerned about that this is taking out the maximum amount of office space that could be built in San Francisco for this project. And also because since this project's been in the works for a number of years, the issue is obviously the tennis club has been neglecting these trees, or they wouldn't be in such a bad health. So that is my issue about these trees should be spared, and also obviously because of the way they rammed this through the Planning Commission and through their use of public funds, and also giving money to Rec and Park, millions of dollars. I find this as a payoff to the city, for different city departments, for what they're planning to do within this parcels and where the trees are currently at. Thank you.
Thank you.
And these are for you.
Josh Klipp, I am not opposing the merits of this project, but collectively these trees have roughly 360 inches of trunk diameter. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of a grove of nearly a dozen redwood trees if they'd been planted when 645 Fifth was built in 1974. Along Bluxom between 5th and 4th, this removal would be 90% of the existing trees, and oddly the 2 remaining trees are gone in the applicant's plans. Along Brannan between 5th and 4th, this would be 71% of the existing trees. Of the remaining 8, 1 is in decline, 3 have been incorrectly planted, and the remaining have not been properly maintained. Along 5th between Brannan and Townsend, this would be 18% of the trees, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that 5 of the remaining trees are ficus, which will likely be out soon because of the director's order. 5 are palm trees, which sequester very little carbon, and 5 are tiny little purple leaf plum trees that have been so severely vandalized they almost certainly meet the city's removal criteria. Widening the lens, the entire southern frontage of Townsend between 4th and 7th has a single tree. On the northern frontage of Townsend between 5th and 6th, there are 0 trees. On Bluxom between 5th and 6th, there are 5 palm trees. And on Brannan, for the entire stretch between 5th and 6th, there are 10 trees, 3 of which are ficus, 2 of which are topiary. The city's 2014 urban forest plan noted that San Francisco has the worst urban canopy of any major city in the United States, and SOMA has the worst canopy of any neighborhood. In 2019, we declared a climate emergency, and that same year we lost 2,500 trees on public property alone. In 2020, our Department of Environment stated that if we do not take care of our urban forests and sequester more carbon, we will fail to meet minimum goals to prevent irreversible climate change. The applicant's plan looks great on paper, but their documentation indicates 0 consideration for tree preservation, only wholesale removal, and a promise to plant more trees whenever this project is complete. By the way, climate change will likely be irreversible by the time that happens. If this city is serious about doing its part, then we need to ask every developer whether a healthy tree might be preserved rather than cut down. And if we as citizens, including this applicant, are serious about doing our part, We must examine all means of preservation, such as incorporating existing trees into designs, demolition and construction methods that allow for preservation, or even transplanting healthy trees so they don't have to die because we lack the creativity or the will to try harder. It took a lot of time and effort to do this research and offer you this data-driven perspective, but I will close by noting that as I stood under one of the tall, healthy fern pines on Bluxom recently, I watched a hummingbird flit around the branches and come to rest. Tree removals, as massive as this, hurt all living beings, and we can and must do better.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Nolte, and I also want to appreciate the patience of the hearing officer. This is the first time I don't know if this is the first time you've been at a tree removal hearing, but I also want to point out to you that I'm the executive director of Alliance for a Better District 6. This project is in District 6, and District 6 has the fewest amount of open space in it, and when you're removing its trees, you're basically hurting our citizens. And our neighborhoods, in particular South to Market, is going to grow. We basically have made it so that all our soft sites, and those are the sites that basically are 1 story or less, will start having something multiple stories. And stories going up and up. And so we're putting more and more citizens in condos and whatnot, office buildings and condos into the downtown neighborhoods. And we're losing basically our ability to have an actual neighborhood. This is, again, poor planning. It's basically you're taking a plot, a whole square block or whatever, and you're basically redesigning it, but does it really fit into the community as a whole? And these are the kinds of problems that I'm a citizen planner. That's what my role has been for over 20 years, is dealing with looking at a bunch of plans, and basically most of the time it's usually a developer coming along and saying, I want this. They're not asking the community what they want. They're saying, I want this. And then the community has to say, well, but how does that work with the rest of the community, and how's it going to stay after the developer is gone? The developer comes along, does what they want, and then they leave. And we're stuck with all the problems. Where's the infrastructure? You know, the trees kind of get put in maybe after the fact, after they're removed. Maybe they'll be put back after the fact. But in the process, we lose the trees, the shade, and everything that was there once was. So, you know, this is not the first time. You know, on this agenda, there was over 70 trees being removed up on the agenda. You know, that's a lot of trees. It's just for one hearing. And it gets to the point where this is kind of ridiculous. Let's talk about how many trees we're going to be putting back into our city instead of how many we're going to be taken away. And having it in lieu fees is a joke, because unless we know where the trees are going to be put back into, how do we know where the trees are, when and where they're going to go? So I'd like to see more trees put in. Our open spaces are in need of more trees, and I'm sorry to take up your time, but this is a little frustrating when this is not the only project that's screwing over our community in District 6. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else here protesting the removal of these trees? Okay. If the applicant's here, we'd love to hear your testimony as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. John Kevlin here with Reuben Junius and Rose on behalf of the project sponsor, Alexandria Real Estate. The proposed tree removal at 645 Fifth Street is necessary in order to complete the construction and offsite improvements for the tennis club project. The tennis club project is a Central Soma Key site that was approved by the Planning Commission in July 2019. In addition to the construction of the mixed-use office building, the project also includes the construction of a community center and pool, a park along Bluxom Street. And relevant to the tree removal request, the project will also include new underground vaults in the sidewalks, the improvement of the surrounding sidewalks consistent with the Better Streets Plan, and the undergrounding of power lines along Brandon Street. And DPW specifically requested that the project raise the elevation of the sidewalks by roughly 1 foot to improve the flood capacity for the entire project vicinity. So that's part of why the tree removal is necessary as well. The project requires the removal of all 33 trees surrounding the site. DPW staff has approved removal of all trees with the exception of 11 trees along Brandon Street. And to be clear, the project sponsor is appealing the denial of those 11 tree removals. The project will replace the 33 removed trees with 95 trees, consistent with the Better Streets Plan. The project will also plant 10 new trees in the new mid-block crossing it is providing. So that's 3 times more trees in the public realm than exists today, plus those 10 trees in that mid-block crossing. All of this was reviewed by SDAT, the SDAT team prior to the Planning Commission approval. The 11 trees not approved for removal along Brandon cannot be left in place for several reasons. The sidewalk is being widened, so the trees would be in the middle of the sidewalk. The sidewalk is being raised, again at the request of DPW, by a foot, which would create a tree pit around these trees. So that's either bad for public safety in terms of folks falling into these pits, or on the other hand, if you try to fill the pits, having soil on the trunk is detrimental to the health of the tree. And even if you kind of create a space around the trunk, it basically just creates a flood basin, which is also detrimental to the health of the tree. This is a major construction project, roughly 1 million square feet of new space, 185 feet in height, and the excavation is going to go 60 to 70 feet below grade. And the trees are going to conflict with that major construction and with the safe and successful completion of that construction. The 11 trees not approved for removal are also not good candidates for relocation. All of them were given a tree conservation sustainability rating of poor by the project arborist, which means the trees are expected to decline during or after construction regardless of management, and that's in the case where they are kept in the same place, so even worse for relocation. So one last point, many times the director approves tree removals conditioned upon the issuance of a site permit. That wouldn't work here because the site permit is actually many months out from its issuance, but the sidewalk and street improvements are going to be underway well before then, and so that's why we're asking for this approval now. If you wouldn't mind, Mr. Hearing Officer, just to finish up one last point.
Sure.
In closing, the removal of all 33 existing street trees are necessary for the construction of this important city project. 2 will be replaced with 3 times the number of street trees, all of which are consistent with city tree guidelines, and 3 will make way for sidewalks that are safer than today. And we're here if you have any questions. I've also got 2 diagrams. One is an exhibit showing all the trees today, which ones are approved and which were disapproved, and secondly, the street planting plan, which will replace all of the trees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you submitted this? I haven't had time to review all the files.
I believe we've got the exhibits on file.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. Okay, I just haven't had time to review them prior,
Okay.
but I want to look through those in detail.
Okay, great. I've also got a copy of the arborist report. That should be in the file as well. Okay, great.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else here giving testimony for the applicant's behalf? Okay, I think that concludes the fun for the evening. And with that, we will close that order and the hearing as well. So I'll close this hearing and have a good night.